Ventilation system. We chose to go with a company called Lunas. It's being imported by 475 Building Performance Products. They have a booth here, and Gallagher's doing something with them now. I would not have done this project if I didn't have access to this component. As soon as I found out that these were available and could be imported to the United States, that was the tipping point for starting this project. This entire project was done while my family was occupying the home. My wife works at home, the kids were there, and there was no way we were going to tear the entire house apart to mechanically ventilate it with a centralized ventilation system. So this allowed literally for us to perform 90% of the work from the outside, including balanced ventilation without disturbing the occupants. This was a real deal breaker for this project. They run at about 9, 18, and I think there's the secret toggle mode. They can bump up to about 28 CFM. Our house is 2,100 square feet. We installed 8 fans, and they operate in pairs. They're a really cool device. It's a balance system. They operate in 70-second cycles. So one fan's doing incoming air for 70 seconds, the other fan's exhausting the air for 70 seconds, and then they reverse themselves. So it's balanced ventilation. They use a ceramic core for heat recovery. They're supposed to be about 92% efficient. I took my 12-point deduction in the PHP, and it still worked out fine. Well, that's the filter. This is the fan unit. There's a core with the fan inside with the ceramic core. This is the exterior grate and the interior grate that has another filter on it. What's that? You cut a 8-inch hole and stick it in there and wire it to an existing outlet.
What do they cost?
It's about $1,200 a pair. So we bought 4 pairs. I got a little bit of a discount. We spent $4,000 on the entire ventilation package, but we didn't tear anything apart to install it. And they work very well. They're also in the process of importing another switch, so we'll actually bump it up to 10, 20, and 30 CFM, so we'll be able to barely meet ASHRAE. Living in the house with this system, I can say it's only been about 9 months since the ERVs were installed. Nobody's gotten sick. The air quality is much better, and even though the flow rates are low, the units in real life, anecdotal experience, are performing extremely well. They're actually performing much better than I thought they would. I was worried about these. As far as I know, I installed the first 8 that came into the US. It was a brand new product with no information and no data. I kind of went out on a limb, and I'm really glad I did. It's a good product. So what was achieved in this project? The comfort is sort of the unsung hero of this entire process. It was 30 degrees the other night. We woke up, the house is 68 degrees. We've increased our glazing area on the south side of the house. We have more light. It's just a more comfortable, healthier home to live in. And we're all happier. The entire family's happier because of it. Even the dogs, who now sit in the light in the mudroom and bathe themselves in sunshine. So this is before, and this is after. I've got a thing for Eastern white pine. I like it a lot. It's local. I think it's beautiful, sustainable, and it's close to home. That's the chimney that we insulated from the exterior, the boiler. That's the line hide for the air source heat pump. We installed a Mitsubishi mini split. I installed 2 heads in this unit, even though the PHP just called for 1. With the decentralized ventilation, I was a little bit concerned about the mixing of the air on a whole house level, so we chose to put a 9,000 BTU unit upstairs and a 12,000 BTU evaporator downstairs. I haven't used them yet. So, for heating, for cooling, and dehumidification also. Here's the outside of the house from behind. It's difficult to see here, but you know, these are one of the situations that you run into in deep energy retrofits where you don't want to move entire windows because our kitchen cabinets are on this wall. So we actually had to change the insulation values in the corner and kind of do some atypical trim detail there to make the window work. We ended up having to do the same thing with the front door because I swapped doors last minute. So there's sort of a picture of that conundrum. You see we've got this small window bringing light into the kitchen. We couldn't extend the entire 5.5 inches of polyiso out without coming into the frame. We moved one stud over, we got 1.5 inches, took whatever we could get, and then worked around it the rest of the process. Very similar situation with this front door. You can see how pushed in it is to the exterior wall. I could not go to the left anymore. That's all pretty much polyiso and interior road-bearing wall. The kitchen was an addition that was put on in 2000. It actually was done with 2x6 framing, so the R values in the kitchen are a little bit higher than they are in the rest of the house. And that's the mudroom, unfinished porch, but it's pretty close. Cost to completion for this project was about $60,000. We didn't have access to the PACE program in our town. PACE program's Efficiency Maine program. That's an offshoot of the federal energy programs, incentives, monies that are available rather. We paid for this out of pocket. My wife and I chose to use our savings to do this retrofit. It was a labor of love. We're pretty much completely broke now. And I actually just spent like money out of Xander's college fund like last week or something. We'll make it back. But the savings in energy costs only over the remainder of the mortgage, if energy prices stay at what they are today, is approximately $101,844. We have 22 years or so left on the remainder of the mortgage. So it's a fairly reasonable investment. It was a little bit painful up front, but we're both happier for the process. So now, what's hot and what's not? And I stole that from Jesse. I had to squeeze in like a Hello Kitty hairdryer. It's like the best thing ever. And what's not hot? So this is the high perm wood fiber, recycled fiber exterior sheathing. This is a BH900 product. This is what we used on the exterior as the exterior sheathing for the house in Knox. It was the only high perm structural sheathing that I could get affordably in our area. It's expensive. You have to buy a lift at a time. There's shipping costs. This product came from Building Products of Canada, hence the outer resistance. And this is us installing this product on the house. It worked. It functions extremely well. It did its job. It's difficult to work with. It's flippity-floppity. It's hard to install. As you see Rich here with his mask on, it's dirty to work with. It's dirty to cut. It smells like asphalt. It's one of those green products that you shake your head and say, well, whatever.
This is a 3/4.
What's that?
3/4 inch.
1/2 inch.
And structurally raised.
Well, that's what they say. But it's not. It's a non-structural application in this assembly, anyways.
I was at a mass house project in Washington State with a fiberboard sheeting, probably a different type, and when they dense packed the cellulose, it really bellied out.
Yeah.
Did you have a belly out problem?
We had a belly out problem. It wasn't a problem because we caught it early enough in the process and we were babysitting the insulation contractors. At that time, we were still paying somebody else to insulate our house, which in Maine, in October, trying to get an insulation contractor to come can mess up the entire workflow of the entire rest of the project. Sheetrock, everything. You spend 6 months trying to stay on time and on budget, and the insulators can change all of that in a heartbeat. This product also requires a weather barrier, so it's an additional layer to the onion. And to apply the weather barrier properly is a considerable amount of work. We did also have problems when we went to blow in the dense packs with the bowing of that cellulose. It didn't bow so much that it caused the sheeting to come out and physically touch the back of the siding. The rain screen was maintained. They were blowing in at about 4 pounds originally, and it was bowing out considerably. We backed it off to about 3.3, 3.4 pounds. It still bowed, but it was fine. But it was also a consideration, and stuff's really dirty to work with. So what's hot? Sweet dancing moves are hot. So we changed the exterior to a membrane system. We use the Solitex Vento Plus. You need to apply counterbattens behind the horizontals to prevent the membrane from bowing out. So there is some additional work here. That's a picture of the rain screen and the Vento, and you can see it has been filled with cellulose, and there is a very little bowing across the counterbattens. What's not hot? Complicated roof venting details that are difficult to implement, seldom implemented properly. This is an example of a very meticulous installation, but that takes a lot of time to do that. So we've gone to...
That is the question. We
Sure.
are about to approach that point in a home that we're building.
Yep.
And we've got a raised steel truss, and we would put sheathing, the sheathing caps at the right now caps at the top of the wall. And then we'll put in another piece of sheathing to go to the bottom of the top cord of the roof. But the plan is it's just a straight level, and we'll use those kinds, I think it's those kinds of foam that will just meet. There'll be a butt joint there,
Right.
so you don't have to tooth it in. Do you see that as problematic or what? We haven't actually bought those vents yet, but I thought they were just flat and would be a butt joint.
I'd be happy to talk to you about that afterwards. I've only got 5 minutes left, and I don't want to cut into anybody else's time, but yeah, I'd be happy to discuss that. What we've moved to instead, what's hot, is sarking membrane. It alleviates all the complicated roofing details. It's waterproof, and it's a pretty good installation. And now that these products are available and are relatively affordable, it's actually less expensive for us to do this labor-wise. And once the roof is done and on and complete, that's it. You don't have to go back and deal with all the venting stuff later.
What's the permeability on the Vento?
38.
Is there sheeting on the roof?
No.
On top of that? No sheeting?
No sheathing. It's a standing seam Galvalume metal roof on top of it that is applied directly to the purlins. So, and the engineer was fine with that. 24 on center. What's not hot? Spray foams of any kind. Off-gassing methyl-butyl isocyanate for years. What is hot is vapor membranes, intelligent membranes, and that's it. Thanks.